Welcome to the Inspiring Tech Leaders podcast with me, Dave Roberts. This week, my special guest is Avril Chester, founder and CEO of Cancer Central UK and also CTO at the Royal Institute of British Architects. Avril is an award-winning technology entrepreneur, executive, speaker, author, and cancer thriver. She is featured in Computer Weekly's Most Influential Women in UK IT in 2020, and in 2019, she won the Entrepreneur of the Year at the Women in IT Awards. Avril is a board member for the Studio at Home and is part of the 3 Digital Amigos podcast. After attending the British School of Brussels in Belgium, which is ranked as one of the best schools in the world, Avril graduated from the University of Plymouth with a Bachelor of Science degree in MediaLab Arts. It's wonderful to have you with us here today, Avril.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
So just to start off, how did you start a career in technology, and was it the path that you always expected to take?
Yeah, I'm going to go back in time. And in fact, I'm going to go back to my schooling purely because I was in the first year GCSE where information technology came out. It was obviously a really, really big thing back then. And when we were looking at GCSE choices, it's like, new, something called information technology. And you go to these sort of things and I distinctly remember my mum, and she said, you know what, I think you should take that. I think there's something in this future with computers. I mean, talk about amazing hindsight. So I took my little first GCSE, which then went on into computer science A level, and then off into university, it was a very different course actually. I did a dissertation on cyborgs. It was fantastic. It was all about the way technology and humans, and you could do the virtual. I did the sort of physical and the way it sort of interacted. And then, of course, you sort of pop out, don't you? And you go, there's no cyborgs in the world. What am I going to do with myself? And I went, and I really was lost. I was like, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And I went on a graduate management scheme, and these things, they take you around, which is such a great concept. They put you into different types of departments, don't they? And you learn very quickly what you are not good at. And then sort of found my way from there really, and it sort of started projects, programs, and then I sort of gravitated then into the technology deliveries, into then the functional head of technology, because I always had an interest in sort of technology and how sort of the interaction, I suppose, sort of with us. So it was it a predefined career path? Not really, but technology's always been there in my life.
And how did you go about securing your first CTO role?
For me, I was huge case of imposter syndrome, because you've got so many routes in to that exec level of technology, because technology is so vast. And I didn't come from a very traditional mainframe background or very traditional development background. In fact, if you saw my development back at uni days, you really, really wouldn't take me on. So what I was sort of trying to demonstrate was, what can I bring to the party, and what leadership skills and understanding of technology solutions and requirements and strategy, and being that sometimes, what it's like, that bridging conversation. That's where there's a fantastic, I've had so many amazing managers in my life, but it was Mark Fulstrom who gave me the first sort of bit into IT director. And because you're always conscious, I don't have it in my previous job title, will you accept me? And he could see the background, he could see the support and the application support and the things that I've been doing. And he went, here we are, here's your little department. And I was like, hello everyone, as you do. And it started from there, and now CTO of the Royal Institute of British Architects, which is phenomenal and amazing, and I'm very grateful to be there.
And you're also the founder and CEO of Cancer Central UK. So can you tell me more about the mission and vision of this fantastic social enterprise?
Yes, I don't have much of a life, Dave.
Very busy.
Yeah, very busy. No, this is my passion. It's something that was born out of my experience of going through breast cancer, and effectively Cancer Central is helping people affected by cancer to find the support and information they need. There are some amazing initiatives out there. There's some amazing companies. There's some amazing Facebook groups. There's people who want to connect with other people. There's people who want to share and support other people, and just finding those connections, particularly in an online space, particularly maybe it's for a family member that live in a different part of the country than you, and you can't just pop into the notice board in the hospitals and things like that. What are the insurance products now? What about the nutrition advice? So that's really what it's about. But where it's kind of come from is I really wanted people to have the opportunity to contribute, because too many people are affected by cancer, and not everyone has the luxury or can afford to work for a charity or a firm that supports people directly with cancer. So we've come up with a term, it's Comminovation. I will get this in Wikipedia one day, and you can use it, Dave. You can use it. It's community and innovation, and anyone can play a part. It can be a workshop day, an idea. They can create a policy. They can develop something for us. They can do a little animation for us. By the way, I'm looking for someone to help with that. They can do all sorts of things, and effectively between us, we're creating this central resource to guide people. And so far, we've received over 55,000 donated hours from over 250 individuals and 50 organizations. It's phenomenal. So we're a very little social enterprise with a really big vision.
That's absolutely fabulous. So can you tell me more about how tech has been used for good, especially during the global pandemic as well?
I know, I'd love to. In fact, I've got quite, it's a bit of an amusing story, not the story itself, but just me. This was just literally the night as we were going into lockdown. I used to stay up in London during the week with work. So there I was. I looked like bag lady on the train. I was trying to pack everything in. I had the crunchy nut box under my arm, so I couldn't fit in anywhere. It was hilarious. And on the train, I got a phone call from my board advisor. And they had got a intern that NHS Scotland had reached out to them, and a number of their contacts, and said, hey, obviously COVID-19, like any of health service, it has been directly hit and affected. Their 111 call volumes had gone through the roof. In fact, call wait times went to 5 hours. Really distressing for those trying to answer the phone as quickly as possible, yet deliver the best customer service. And he said, anything you can do to help. And funny enough, we had just been with my partners, Amido, sort of re-platforming my little Ask Gav, my little chatbot on Cancer Central. And we said, of course, how can we help? So within 24 hours, we showcased, got a little demo on the site, and they decided to take a chance on us and go with it and try this innovation. And we got it live within a month, which was phenomenal. Obviously, sort of approved information, because it's they managed and the content, we trained them up on it, and now we've had, our SCAV has handled over 500,000 messages to support COVID-19 in Scotland, and just some of obviously the more generic questions that are much easier to answer, freeing up the team to have those more specific conversations. So huge kudos to our partners Amido and NHS Scotland team, who took an innovation chance, and it's really paid off. And it's been a real honor to have a tiny part to support and help in this pandemic.
That's really good. Is there any opportunities to expand that into other NHS trusts?
Yeah, the politics, Dave.
I can imagine.
You can imagine. So we're keen to help, obviously, continue with Scotland, and we actually branched out into the vaccines. So we've helped them sort of roll out. I would love to help. I mean, we've got a solution. It's a managed service. Obviously, after operational costs, the money goes to support Cancer Central platform. So it's helping us keep Cancer Central free. So it's a lovely cycle of the money's going, if you see what I mean. I'm sure there's a posher word for this, Dave. As you can tell, business development is not my forte, but I'd love to. But I know that there's all sorts of barriers. There's all sorts of things, and we just keep knocking on doors, and maybe one day.
Well, hopefully there's some CTOs or CIOs from NHS trusts listening to this podcast, and can look to take advantage of the Ask Av tech that you've developed. It's something which we should really try and encourage to go into more NHS trusts. But it's not just NHS trusts that you've been working on. I know you've also created the Tech Carbon Impact Wiki as well. So can you share some details about how this fantastic initiative is going as well?
When you reflect back on the year and go, actually, it's been quite busy, isn't it?
It's got a lot done.
Got a lot done. So RBA, obviously we're hugely passionate about the 2030 climate challenge. And it was one of those things where sort of I joined, my first full month was in the January 2020, just before the lockdown. And I was sort of thinking, obviously there's things we're doing to help support the architecture community, around the data and things like that. But I felt as myself and as a tech department, what can we do? I was feeling a little bit sort of disconnected a bit, and I was thinking there must be something we can do. And I just started to read some articles. And to be perfectly honest with you, I was incredibly naive before I even sort of started reading these articles. And, if I may, there's just some incredible stats out there. So pre-lockdown, video streaming obviously was completely on the rise. So this is before Disney Plus. This was before Apple TV. And the Shift project was sort of saying, hey, the carbon footprint and impact generated just by us having the sort of streaming service is equivalent to a country like the size of Spain. And that really, I took a bit of a sharp breath at that point, because I thought, gosh, well, we're doing more technology now. Obviously we burn energy, we do this, we do that. So I started to explore and really and then we went into lockdown, and of course we're using it much more. So we then held a digital leaders workshop. Some fantastic colleagues came along, and it was a bit like asking the audience. It's like, hi, what are you doing? Can we learn? Can we do something? What can we do in our day-to-day personalized, but also as a technology department within an organization? Not all of us work for a technology organization, and some people don't. As such a small SME, they don't even have tech departments. Someone's doing it in their spare time. So what can we do? And I learned all sorts of things. Again, I'm going to read this because it is absolutely phenomenal. So smartphones use 90% of their greenhouse gases in the production phase. So this means by the time you get it out of this box, it's already made a really big impact. And if you keep your phone on average for 2.5 years, if you keep it for an additional year, you'll extend it by 40% of its lifetime. This makes a whopping 25% saving on your carbon footprint. Wow. So by keeping your phone for an extra year, 25% saving, because the highest amount of that carbon production, it's in its production stage. And thank you, Shift Project. That's amazing. So all this stuff came through. And coming back to your original question, sorry, I was going a bit around the houses, but I think that was really important to explain the hows and the whys. We were learning all this great stuff, and there's a wonderful CIO, Carolyn Morgan, that started to sort of help out, and Abigail McDougall and my team, and then it was like, we should put it in a wiki, because other people have information and other people know what they're doing, and other people can give ideas and share their case studies. And between us, we can take each step on the journey and start to address our impact. And that's where it came from.
So I know we also were on a panel discussion recently where we discussed the importance of environmental social governance. Can you perhaps share with some of the listeners what the Royal Institute of British Architects are doing to support green IT in a more general manner?
Absolutely. And that was a great panel. Really enjoyed it. You, a fabulous moderator, as always, Dave. So, I mean, we started small, because a lot of it, you know, it's a bit like you look at the elephant and go, oh, where do we start? And so the first things first was actually writing a little piece into every single one of our job descriptions. So in the technology department, we all have a part to play in thinking about green IT. So what we do and what we implement and how we respond to things, it's all within our objectives. So that's sort of step one. And then we looked at KPIs. Again, you know, it's lovely if you can go big, but it's being realistic. So what can you do? You know, what upcycling can you do? We always gave that sort of old equipment away, but where is that going? Is there a better place? Is there a better thing you can do with that sort of type of thing? the next part we were sort of looking at is, how do we create, looking at the energy usage that we're doing. At the end of the day, a number of us keep our monitors sort of on standby or whatever. So we're now looking into that. It's more about the energy uses at home, because obviously a number of us are here right now. So we're looking into how we can educate. So we've been doing a couple of things internally about sort of sharing, what, did you know there was this big green IT thing? Let's have a look at it. So it's still very small steps, admittedly. And I really would encourage anyone listening, please share your steps on that wiki. Please update it. Please do that, because we need to look at what steps we're going to do next. And you will be able to advise us as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely, I think sharing that type of information and insight can only help us all together. So what has been your career highlights to date, and what do you think has been your proudest moment in your career so far?
Out of all the questions, Dave, I found this the hardest. There's because in a way there's so many highlights because I've been fortunate enough to work with many different organizations and many different people, and I've learned things along the way. I was thinking, well, each bit's a highlight, and I opted for going for a bit of an obvious choice here, but there's a reason for this, because I think when people look at career highlights, it means everyone's got things sussed. And I think I just want to be sort of very open about that. So an absolute career highlight to me was winning Entrepreneur of the Year at the Women IT Awards in 2019. I literally nearly fell off my chair when they announced my name. My platform, Cancer Central, had only been live about 4 months. And it was about how we were approaching it and what we were doing and that sort of side of things. And it was a really proud moment, because it's very scary. I denounced on LinkedIn, in 2018, hi, I'm going to do a startup. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I've got no money and we're just going to go for it. And to receive an award for taking that chance and for people to believe in you, that's why it meant something to me. They believe in me. And I don't know about you, there's always moments where you don't believe in yourself. And for them to believe in me was an absolute incredible moment. And I'll forever be grateful, because, the next part, and the reason why I wanted to pick that slightly obvious one, is it doesn't necessarily mean then that you find things easy. I find there's so many days, there's so many things I want to do in Cancer Central, for example, and we can only go as fast as we can because everyone's given their time so graciously in their spare time. And there's things and people have invested in me, and I go, I'm scared of failing in that sense, Dave. I'm scared of, everyone's had all this great faith in me. And I'm like, oh. So career highlights do come with wobbles. And tissue boxes sometimes, actually, I find. So I think that's why I picked that one. There's always something. It's like the screen at work, isn't there? There's always something going on behind the screen, and something in people's lives that you may not know. So a real highlight. It keeps me going. It keeps the drive, actually, because I'm like, I'm not going to fail people. I'm going to keep going when I have my really difficult days.
Well, it's certainly something to be proud about. So I think it's a very good one to select. So what's the next step in your career journey with so many things going on? What's next for you?
Oh, what's next? So big plans for Cancer Central, with who we have, and, if you want to join us, help out.
Always happy to help, yeah.
It's also helping. So we've got big plans for that, and of course I want to grow it. The main thing is the content. If you know of anyone in your local community that deliver a product or service, or have a story, or run an event, please get them. If you hope you don't mind me, Dave, just quickly, please get them to log in, get a profile, share it, because the platform's there. We just don't know what's going on in the world. So we definitely need that help. But the next step, if we talk about ROBA, I've just launched internally the new technology strategy. Gosh, it's July now, isn't it? So we've got a 2.5-year transformation journey ahead. And it's a real privilege, because architects have such an influence on our lives and the built environment and society. And it's an over 180-year-old organization. And they've got some really... They're trusting me to be brave, Dave, which is really fabulous. So again, don't want to let them down, but we're going to be brave. We're going to be changing. There's some stuff, the standards that a lot of us in technology get. We need to get rid of some of the legacy and all that kind of stuff. But there's hopefully some real innovation that's coming through that we're doing, that I'm looking forward to implement. I'm looking forward to sharing in due course, obviously. So I'm sure that's going to keep me a little busy. Just a little busy.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. So what has been that best bit of advice that you've received during your career ascent, and what advice would you give to others now who perhaps just starting out on the journey?
The best advice I have ever received is really simple. Give it a go. You can always learn. And if I may, that leads me on to a really, really lovely quote by Bethany Hamilton. And she says, "Courage doesn't mean you don't get afraid. Courage means you don't let fear stop you." So whatever you want to do in life, whatever you want to do in your career, whatever you want to try out at work, and you sometimes that fear stops you, or you're not sure about giving it a go because it's the first time you're doing things. It's the first time we always do something. We need to learn. You need to see whether it's something you're duck to water on, or if you're not, great learning, and you go on to your next piece. So give it a go.
Very good advice. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Avril. And I just want to take the opportunity to thank you again for sharing your career insights and experience and being part of the Inspiring Tech Leaders podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And thanks for listening, everyone.
Thank you. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast and stay tuned for more Inspiring Tech Leaders.